This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
And good evening. Good morning, wherever you are. This is Safety Wars for Tuesday, February 28th, 2023. How's everybody doing out there tonight? Busy day. I hope everybody is being very productive. I know February was a very productive month for me. Hit a couple of milestones this month. I know we're not only milestones, we had a couple of mountaintop experiences this month. Always nice to have those mountaintop experiences. What's a mountaintop experience? When you exceed all expectations. That's how I describe it. So, unfortunately, a lot of us have never had a mountaintop experience. So, I had somebody who I was following for years when I was in the political world. And then one day I was hosting my own political event, and that person who I had been looking up to came there to hear me for a change. That was a mountaintop experience. That was what I call my John the Baptist experience, right? Where you're preparing the way for somebody else. So, yeah, we're still working on stuff and editing things from last week. And I wanted to discuss something that happened over the last week or so. Towards the end of the middle, once we get through news, things of that nature. I hope it was useful last night to review the EPA website about this whole situation out there in East Palestine, Ohio. They had the mayor on today, and they didn't even mention his name. They just said the mayor, and we were catching that on some of the little TV that I watch, ever since I started doing the podcasting, and we're coming up on 2 years this week. Ever since I did the podcasting, started that, and then we started to do this live, we ended up, I'm drinking my coffee. We started doing this live. I haven't really watched TV, and it's been, it changes your life. All I really watch is Star Trek. I'll put in a plug. I'm a big Trekker. I've been a big Trekker since September of 1973. I believe it was September 21st, on or about. That's when I saw the animated series, and I believe the episode is called The Joker, or the Enterprise computer gets taken over. Maybe I'll do something on YouTube or something with that. But anyway, that's really all I watch, and it drives my wife nuts. She's like, oh, we're watching this again. And, it doesn't help that they have free TV now, Pluto TV. They have 2 Star Trek channels, right? And they show 3 series. Unfortunately, they only show select episodes, so you're not going to see the whole series. But anyway, a lot of exciting things going on there also in the Star Trek world. But anyway, this is Safety Wars. And now they're so getting back to the East Palestine situation, they're updating this stuff daily for the most part. So the February 27th update, more of the same. Now, they're not releasing... This is slight speculation, but I did some asking around and everything. They're not releasing specific details on homes because that's like private information here. And reportedly, they're going to be there until the place doesn't smell anymore. Right? Now, that brings to us the question of, let's say that you don't hit an exposure limit, but you're going to hit but you're still have an odor. Yeah, it's an irritant. So, full disclosure here. there was here you go. This is from a NBC News story from March 15th, 2004, the Ides of March, 2004. And one of our listeners, Kim, that's her birthday. It's a lifelong friend of mine. March 15th is her birthday. Anyway, so my former employer was involved in this case. I got to read a lot of stuff in here. But a factory worker who claimed his lungs were ruined as a result of mixing flavoring oils used in microwave popcorn was awarded $20 million by a jury Monday. The worker was the first of 30 former workers in a certain company in a certain place to have his suit heard against the two makers of the butter flavoring. Following a morning of closing arguments, the jury deliberated for a little while. So, reportedly, according to this, is that the person needed a lung transplant. So, what was one of the cases here with this? What was some of the details with this? Was that there is no PEL, REL, TLV, or anything like that for the popcorn flavoring. So, and the no, they just had warning labels on the SDS for the material and all whatever else goes in there. I'm not even sure. And at this on MSDS, I'm not even sure that you need an MSDS for a food product like this. Now that's sort of, I don't really handle that area. The food industry. But what happened was, in lieu of a PEL, right, and lack of a PEL or exposure limit, doesn't mean that you don't have to protect your workers from that. So in this case, the flavoring was diacetyl, right? DIACETEYL, diacetyl. And what happened was it was a lung irritant. So the lung irritant, diacetyl, that was essentially the PEL. That was the warning property. So basically, even though they were under exposure limits, it wasn't measurable or anything like that. But because it was a lung irritant, that is in effect the permissible exposure limit for that. So what's my point here? The nuisance odors in East Palestine, Ohio, right? No, they may be under all of the measurable amounts, so you still have an odor there, and that's a nuisance odor. People are complaining about all different side effects and things, and we talked about the additive formula for in toxicology, where you add the PELs together, average them out, and there's a nice fancy formula for that, and you're able to determine whether you're assuming all the chemicals have the same target organ, the same type of effects. Now you're able to determine whether the combination of all those chemicals, you're above the permissible exposure limits there, right? You're able to set an action level and everything else with it. But it's all on the CSV and CIH exam and CHMM exam. But what the idea is with that, well, it may be on the exam. It's in the body of knowledge. I'll leave it at that. No, I'm sworn to secrecy with that. But what the idea is that these folks are still getting nuisance odors here. They're having irritated lungs, reportedly laryngitis, symptoms similar to like helium inhalation, where the voices go up high, and all this other stuff. That's an issue, right? So, it's a big mess out there. How are we going to manage any of this stuff? And that's something that they're going to have to work out with the public health people and everything else. So that's something we're going to be keeping an eye on with that. So, now the website has been updated. So far, the EPA I'll just read the update. EPA has conducted 578 home re-entry screenings to date and continues to monitor the air in 15 stations. Everything is up on the EPA website. Check it out. They set up an information hotline, and tomorrow, meaning today, EPA will officially open a community welcome center at 25 North Market Street, where members of the community can drop in to ask questions about response efforts and access information. Now, it's my opinion, and I'm not involved with the actual. I'm not involved with the actual investigation here, but I can be. Anyone wants me to be involved, give me a call, 845-269-5772 or jim@safetywars.com. So give me a call, and no, we can probably work together out there on this. But it's good that they're doing this, and, they're doing all this stuff. So all the sample results are there. Now, we also talked about this. Right, OSHA outreach training yesterday. So with OSHA outreach training, we had said I'm seeing, I'm going through my notes and emails and everything. I've run into this at least, and talking to my staff here, we've run into at least 36 times, right? So we've been working on projects in New York, and we run into this problem at least 36 times. You have a contractor that comes out of New York City, and the Department of Buildings has 40 hours worth of training that's required. So that includes the OSHA 30-hour outreach course for construction and a couple of other courses like fall protection, scaffolding, things of that, whatever is relevant. And then they have a whole bunch of fitness for duty things. And we run into problems where people feel that, oh yeah, my employees are trained. They had an OSHA outreach course. That OSHA outreach course is just an awareness level course. You still need all the other training. I think it's 127 different areas of training or something like that. It's on the OSHA website. For that, it's also on the Safety Wars and jcbtechnical.com websites. All of these necessary trainings that you're going to need to do. They don't mention that. A lot of trainers do not mention that in their training class. One of the problems with the outreach training classes, and again, I'm an outreach trainer in all 4 disciplines, is that it varies from trainer to trainer. And if you're going to be, I've had people go through the 30-hour course and the 10-hour outreach course. They don't mention a lot of stuff in there. So what don't they mention often? All the training that's required. It's an awareness level course. No, that's glossed over. Record keeping is glossed over. What's a recordable, what's not? What you have to report to OSHA, that's all glossed over. Not even included on that. Employee responsibility. So I mentioned this yesterday. Sometimes when you're teaching managers, trainers will often concentrate on what the employees' responsibilities are. And if they're talking to employees, they'll focus on what the management's responsibilities are, right? And that you have to. That if you're a trainer, you got to be careful with that, because both employers and employees have issues. Walking people through how to. A lot of these trainers have never been on an OSHA inspection or dealt with OSHA, believe it or not. So they gloss over that. They don't know that. So they'll gloss over, oh, yeah, this is what you do. They have a couple of handouts there and whatever on the OSHA website you're supposed to use. And this is an opportunity. For the trainers to say, hey, this is not all there is to it. But a lot of trainers don't want to do that. So I'm going to tell you, if you're going to be wondering what's on there, what you should be knowing, and you worry what you should know and what wasn't included in the class, give me a call at 845-269-5772, or you can text me at that number, or jim@safetywars.com, and we will set you up with a consultation and figure out what you really need to know for this stuff. I had a client recently that did that, and he said it was the best hour that he ever spent learning what they specifically needed to know, and we came up with a plan for his company. And that's what we do here. All right. So on to this. So COVID-19, right? So apparently the Department of Energy, I don't know. I'll be honest with you, I have no freaking clue how they got involved with this. With it, you'd think the CDC, okay, maybe the Public Health Service would get involved with this, or the Surgeon General sort of thing. Something like that would be involved in this investigation here. But I'm reading this from abcnewsgo.com from yesterday. 9:18 p.m. It was released after this program aired yesterday. The news that the U.S. Department of Energy now believes with low confidence that the COVID-19 pandemic most likely was a result of a laboratory leak in China resulted in a firestorm of debate across the internet. First reported by the Wall Street Journal and not independently confirmed by ABC News, the DOE, which oversees a system of laboratories in the U.S., changed its stance from undecided, becoming the second agency after the FBI to believe a lab accident resulted in the Global Health Agency. For other U.S. agencies, believe the virus was a result of natural transmission and that the virus known as SARS-CoV-2 jumped from animals to humans at a wet market. Two other agencies are undecided. So there is no consensus across the government. All right. So let's talk about this. There was a book released in the early 2000s. The name of the book was Lab 257. All right. It was written by Lab 257, The Disturbing Story of, this is 2005, The Disturbing Story of the Government's Secret Germ Laboratory Paper, right? And the paperback was 2005. I read the book several times, but no, a lot of the book was disputed because they had made an assertion that Lyme disease came from Lab 257. What's Lab 257? If you go to the end of Long Island, New York, right, you're going to take what is called, it's on the northern coast of Long Island, the Orient Point Ferry. It goes from Orient Point, New York, and it takes you to the submarine base, right across the street from the submarine base in, or across the harbor, I should say, a river, the submarine base in Connecticut, New Groton, Connecticut. I always say Al Groton, Connecticut, but it's New Groton, Connecticut. Anyway, Lab 257 was the Department of Agriculture's laboratory off there, and there was some, if you heard of Operation Paperclip for World War II with the Nazi scientists, some of them ended up there, and there's a lot of stuff and rumor, and they call it Anthrax Island also in Silence of the Lambs, Anthony Hopkins thing. But anyway, you read the book, and the reason why a lot of people have a problem with it is made the assertion that Lyme disease was released from there. And upon further research, I believe it was 2014, 2015, they came out with the idea that the Lyme disease that they were experimenting in the lab had a totally different genetic identity than the endemic Lyme disease spread by ticks. I've had it 3 times, by the way. My son had it once. But the book, what's important about the book? Okay, all this other stuff. And it documented allegedly sloppy stuff going on there. So let's talk about this. We've all been on a job, whether it's a construction job, maybe a new process or something like that. And people say, well, this is going to be the safest job ever. This is going to be so safe and everything else. And then what happens is everyone's paying attention to what they're doing. Complacency gets in, workarounds get in. And let's remember, the human error goes into this. And People are trying to work within the system. And Todd Conklin, his last podcast, went into this, right? The pre-accident investigation went into this with medical stuff, medical safety professional dealing with medicine safety. But and what was their the point is that the worker has to work around a system, and the worker makes the system work and makes decisions and everything else with this. And eventually there's going to be deviation, right, from the normal stuff going on. And what happens is things happen. So according to this author, right, Michael Carroll, stuff happened at Lab 257. The review on Amazon I'm looking at it is for the first time, Lab 257 takes you deep inside the secret world that presents startling revelations on virus outbreaks, biological meltdowns, infected workers, the periodic flushing of contaminated raw sewage into the Long Island Sound, and the insidious connections between Plum Island, Lyme disease, and the deadly West Nile virus, right? The book also probes what's in store for Plum Island's new owner, the Department of Homeland Security, in this age of bioterrorism. So, now this was written right after 9/11. Do you think that this sort of thing could happen at other labs? Well, what's alleged here from this Lab 257 book? Maybe. You have conflicting, there's no consensus as to where this COVID-19 came from. The DOE said, it might be from a lab and another agency from the lab. But I know this much. My thoughts on this are, it definitely was isolated in the lab. We know that. Where it came from, I don't know. I can't say. But it's not too much of a stretch to think that this might come from a lab based on our experience with human error, human behavior, and everything else that goes into this, and normalcy of deviance, right, from what you're expected to do, bypassing procedures, protocols, things of that nature. That happens everywhere. That's why it's important that we have multiple levels of protection here. Multiple levels here of everything. That's what safety is. You have capacity, you have resilience, you have safeguards in there. So if one thing fails, now something else could pick it up. It's sort of like PPE. PPE is the last line of defense against all this stuff because it's the least reliable, and we know that. So you have other things like equipment guards before that, maybe change the types of tools you're using, everything else that goes in there before we worry about the PPE, because that's the last line of defense here. And what do they do? With some of the reports of what I hear, what goes on in China as far as safety is concerned, from legitimate sources, not rhetoric here. They may not be as strict as some other countries with this stuff. So it's something to think about. So, So what do we know from the DOE report? The journal acknowledged, the Wall Street Journal, that it has not seen the report and relied on the account of people who have read the document. Only one of the details known is that the conclusion was reached with low confidence. The fact that the DOE changing its position to low confidence means the amount of evidence in the direction of lab leak or natural spillover is still very limited. It also means the DOA is not dismissing the natural transmission theory. Academic molecular biologists are of this position, according to Dr. William Schaffner, that this was a natural event just as the other two coronavirus transmissions from wild species to humans were. First SARS and then MERS. Dr. William Schaffner, and in fact, right, Vanderbilt. This is, and then going on what that is. What the report doesn't tell us. Because the public hasn't seen the report, it's unclear what evidence caused the DOE to change its mind, where that evidence came from, and what the term lab leak even means, right? Lab leak means different things, different people. Experts told ABC News that even if the COVID pandemic did occur as a result of a lab leak, it doesn't mean that natural transmission didn't occur. You could have had both. In fact, it could mean a hypothetical patient 0 was infected at the laboratory before spreading the illness elsewhere. You can see them operating in sequence. Let's say the lab leak were correct and the virus began to infect people and some of these persons went to the wet market. And then it became an amplification, right? Bioamplification at the wet market where you had a lot of people getting impacted. Why is this all important is, do we need different protocols? Do we need different controls in the laboratories? Can we change procedures to make things a little bit safer, a little bit more in line with human error, concerning human error and everything else that goes into it? So all something to consider here. So we're going to take a break, as is our custom here. I know I take the break whenever I want to, but we're going to take a break. And we'll get back to you in a minute. Oops. Do.
In the professional safety community, communication and planning are just a few keys to your program's success. The question many practitioners have is, where do I start? Dr. Jay Allen, the creator of the Safety FM platform and host of the Rated R Safety Show, has built a global foundation to help you along the way. Go to safetyfm.com and listen to some of the industry's best and most involved professionals, including Blaine Hoffman with the Safety Pro, Sam Goodman with the Hop Nerd, Sheldon Primus with the Safety Consultant, Jim Pozell with Safety Wars, Emily Elrod with Unapologetically Bold, and many others. As individuals, we can do great things, but as a team, we become amazing. Dial into safetyfm.com today and surround yourself with a powerful force of knowledge and support.
OSHA recordables, first aid cases, catastrophic losses. You want answers? So do I. This is Jim Posel with Safety Wars. That's right, I want answers, and I'm going to get those answers. So, this is a story of my dreadful letter back from the Epoch Times. Recognizing there has been a deficit of trust in the federal government, and that's a quote, among East Palestine residents in the aftermath of the February 3rd toxic train derailment we just talked about, EPA Administrator Michael Regan returned to the Eastern Ohio village today. Regan attended a roundtable with students and teachers at the high school and talked to small business owners before holding a press conference to commemorate that community welcome center that we mentioned. Located in downtown East Palestine, the Welcome Center is designed as a resource for residents and business owners to get questions answered. I can promise that as this community continues to look forward, we're going to keep to be here every step of the way for as long as it takes, Regan said. We aren't going anywhere, and I can tell you, and you can tell by the storefront behind me, we are here for the long haul. We want to make sure the community knows we're here for them, and we're bringing resources to bear for them. Anyway, okay, so that's a good thing, right? Let's talk, and we haven't talked about the markets lately. Dow Jones Industrial down today, closing at 32,656.70. S&P 500 down 39.70. Nasdaq 1140.55. Russell it's down slightly. Russell 2000 up. I'm pretty much holding the level 18.96. U.S. 10-year Treasury note Before I went on vacation, it was like 3.7. Now it's 3.939, but it's down slightly for the day. Bitcoin, 23,144, and crude oil is at 76.80 a barrel. Gas prices are down here. I've seen it actually for under $3 a gallon here in the New York, New Jersey area. Right, if you want the no-name gas, that is. But some people, that's not good enough for them. They want the real stuff, the high test, as we used to call it back in the day. Gold at 1833.20, down slightly. Silver at 21.16, down slightly. Platinum at 969.80, down slightly. And palladium at 1457.50. So those are your markets for the day. We're going to talk about U.S. Department of Labor press releases here. So these were, some of them, were, we go all the way back to the 23rd here. OSHA Area Office Director, and this is from a U.S. Department of Labor McCarthy Building Company, signed an alliance to target workplace hazard at St. Louis BJC Campus Renewal Project. OSHA Area Office Director William McDonald in St. Louis signed an alliance with McCarthy Building Companies Incorporated to provide a safe work site during Phase 3 construction of the BJC Healthcare Campus Renewal Project in downtown St. Louis. The alliance includes a partnership with the Mid-America Carpenters Regional Council, Missouri and Kansas Laborers District Council, and Building and Construction Trades Council. Project is a long-term initiative to transform Washington University Medical Center through new construction and renovations. The campus includes Barnes Jewish Hospital, St. Louis Children's Hospital, and Washington University School of Medicine. It goes on, and then members will also continue to share information on OSHA campaigns to encourage workplace safety. So that's a great thing, right? Offering into an alliance. But the thing is, you don't need the alliance necessarily. You don't have to go through all this stuff, right? With them, it's a good idea and everything else, But remember, OSHA is the minimum. You can go and do this yourself, right? With your own company internally, changing that corporate culture thing. U.S. Department of Labor finds El Paso Metal Plating Company continues to willfully expose employees working with corrosive acids and eye injuries. I'm not going to mention the company, but there is 12 serious and one willful violation for a company. This is from El Paso, Texas from today. A federal workplace safety investigation of an El Paso jewelry metal plating finisher found the company again exposing workers to serious hazards, including willfully failing to protect people working with dangerous acids and other chemicals from potentially permanent eye injuries. So let's see what this is. And they posted the stuff here, right? Boom, boom, boom. And let's remember, everyone is innocent till proven guilty. And often these things are vacated or reduced and everything else. So citation 1, item 1, type of violation, serious. An exit route was not kept free and unobstructed. $13,394. Citation 1, item 2, A, serious. The implant, storage and unitization of all compressed gases and cylinders, portable tanks, rail tank cars, or motor vehicle cargo tanks are not in accordance with Compressed Gas Association Pamphlet P1 1963-65. Yeah, the standard 60 years old, right? Good job there, right? Can't we get one a little bit more updated? On or about September 12th, oxygen tanks were not properly stored. The condition exposed employees who were struck by explosion hazards in the following instances. Okay, so here it was. I normally don't go into this, but this is where they fouled up. Allegedly. On the south wall of the main work area, and again, it's the system, not the person, 3 oxygen tanks were approximately 1 foot away from spark-producing equipment. In the east corner of the main work area, 2 oxygen tanks were observed on the floor next to 3 fire extinguishers and approximately 3 feet from an acetylene tank. Those are supposed to be separated by a firewall or by 20 feet. In the plating room, there were, don't quote me on that, I'm doing this from memory. Again, I just read this stuff. In the plating room, there were 2 carbon dioxide tanks next to a blue container with a label that read, oxidizer, severe fire hazard. So that was $13,394. Citation 1, item 2, serious. Acetylene not stored or used, right? I mentioned this. Citation 1, item 3. The employer did not assess the workplace to determine if hazards were present or were likely to be present, which necessitated the use of PPE. That's a 1910-132 thing. That was great. 15,625. This is an easy one to resolve. So usually we pick a month. I usually pick January with my customers. We're going to redo all the hazard assessments. Log it in, put it in an email, print out the email, put it with the safety manual. Yeah, we reevaluated everything. Right, easy. How do we do this? Job hazard analysis. That's another one, OSHA 30. Do they talk about job hazard analysis and safety plans? I don't know. Type citation 1, item 4. Serious. This is eye and face protection. Right. In the main work areas, employees are exposed to flying metal particles, molten metal, liquid chemicals, acids or caustic liquids, chemical gases or vapors, and we're not wearing any form of eye protection in the following areas. They list 6 different areas. What's the fine? $15,625. Citation 1, item 5. A. Written respiratory protection program. All right. They had 3 activities that probably required respiratory protection. That was another $15,625. Citation 1, item 5B, medical evaluation for respirators. So let's talk about this. What respirators? Well, first of all, what is a respirator? Respirator has a NIOSH approval, NIOSH, NIOSH, National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health. If it does not have a NIOSH approval, it is not legally a respirator. It is a mask. So this is how companies got around the respiratory protection standard for a lot of this stuff during the COVID, was that they handed out masks. If you hand out a mask, you don't have to comply with 1910-134. The minute that you hand out a NIOSH rated or NIOSH certified respirator, that could be a filtering face piece or a tight fitting respirator with cartridges and things, on up supplied air, you have to comply with 1910-134 if it's and all the requirements of which is a respiratory protection standard, and it's a respiratory protection standard for all areas of OSHA. Also, so any of those, so filtering face fuse respirator, you got to do fit tests. You have to do medical evaluations with that. Now, I had mentioned previously, and they got 0 on that, right? I had mentioned previously that at my mother-in-law's funeral, I can't believe it's going to be 3 years, 2 years, no, 2 years this year coming up in a couple of at the end of next month. Somebody put on one of those fake masks, those imitation surgical masks, and had a seizure while carrying the coffin. Dropped the coffin. Right? That's how you do medical evaluation. And citation 1, item 5C was another 1910-134 violation with a fit testing requirement. They didn't find them on that one. And another one, serious one, respirator storage, 0, right? Dollars. They didn't store respirators properly. Another one, citation 1 item 6, serious housekeeping, right? 13,394. Another, next one, item 1, citation 1 item 7, sewage not disposed of properly. Are you kidding me? I guess that might have been a backed up toilet like the post office had, and one of the post offices had, for all I know. Item 1, 7B. The lavatories were not provided with hot and cold or tepid running water. Okay. The on or about September 12, 2022, the employer did not provide lavatories with hot and cold or tepid running water. This condition endangered the lives of them, right? So, okay, I don't understand this. Did not provide, maybe it's me, and I've been up for since 3:30 in the morning, and it's 8:30 at night here. On or about September 12, 2022, the employer did not provide lavatories with hot and cold or tepid running water. Does that mean that there was no water? I don't know. And 8A. Employees were permitted to consume food in areas exposed to toxic materials. $13,394 fine. Item 9, citation 1. Listed or labeled electrical equipment was not used or installed in accordance, right? Another one, $11,100. And going on and on, broken parts on equipment, and more electrical has to be marked high voltage. And let's see, anything else? GHS violations here, globally harmonized system, and everything else. So what's my whole point here is 292,693, and these were not even willful. These were just serious violations. And it goes down. I mean, the violations go down the whole page. So what's my point here with this? They better get this fixed, because I tell you what, if they don't get this fixed, OSHA will be there back at a certain point in the future to verify that all this has been fixed, and they're going to get hit with willful or repeat violations. New Hampshire roofing contractor faces $234,000 in penalties for exposing workers to fall hazards again, this time at 2 Granite State work sites. So, looks like this is from the 21st. Let's go through. I'm not going to go through these in painstaking detail. No competent person, $6,800. Accident prevention tags, 0, 0, 0, 0. 503, no fall protection training, $6,800. Portable ladder violations, $13,750. So all that stuff going in there, right? Federal panel upholds $10,000 U.S. Department of Labor citation litigated by a retailer for years over hazardous shelving. So this is from a retailer that we've all heard from. And hazardous shelving. And the proposed penalty of $10,684. Went to the went to the U.S. Court of Appeals. There's more to this than what's here. All right. And what they mention here. This operates about 10,500 stores and clubs under 46 banners in 24 countries and e-commerce websites. Maybe they have this situation. Okay, here it is. In response to a report of a worker's injury on February 2017, OSHA investigators determined that the warehouse workers suffered long-term injury when their head and neck were struck by a package that fell from storage racks above. Inspectors learned that another employee operating a forklift in the adjacent aisle inadvertently struck the pallet on which the merchandise was stacked. All right. I think there's more to it than this. I think there's a lawsuit in here, and the retailer did not want to admit guilt on this, and they dragged this out as long as they could with this. And I'm sure it's not over. Here's another press release from February 23rd. This was at a Dollar Tree in Mount Pleasant, Texas, and it's the same stuff that we always hear. Exits blocks, boxes stacked dangerously. How much in fines here? $254,478 for 3 repeat violations. Let's click on this here. Exit routes. Repeat violation. $156,000. Repeat serious. Housekeeping. Right? $0. All right. Citation 1, item 2. Repeat serious. Secure storage. Storage of material created a hazard. Boxes stored in tiers are not stacked, blocked, or interlocked, and limited in height, so they were stable and secure against sliding in or collapse. $98,000. So the whole thing, $254,000 for 3 repeat things. I don't know. Hard to say what's going on here. And U.S. Department of Labor cites another warehouse company for exposing workers to ergonomic hazards, this time in Colorado Springs. I actually was on the build crew for this facility here. It was for complete disclosure here. This also had, this facility, according to a news story that a listener sent us, this facility had another situation and made the news. And we have HIPAA stuff going on in work and everything else, where you're not supposed to disclose medical situations of employees. Right, and every state has its own laws and privacy laws and, customary things. Now, and I don't want to get into HIPAA because I'll get an attorney to explain that. But HIPAA is not what you think it is, right, when it comes to workplace injuries. Where an employee had a medical emergency, collapsed, and they just took the guy out to the hospital and said, okay, back to work, is what's alleged to have happened. They didn't manage it properly, in my opinion, based on the news stories, and now they're having issues with all of their employees. So, with that, figure out what you're going to do. And, And we're going to take a little break here again. One. Is your safety training old, stale, and hackneyed? Is your safety trainer still preaching a warped version of behavior-based safety? How about safety training that actually addresses your hazards in your workplaces and is not standardized baloney from 25 years ago? Contact the Safety Wars team at safetywars.com or call Jim Posel at 845-269-5772. Remember, if you're receiving this message, you are the solution to unsafe workplaces. So, we're coming up to like 200 programs in a couple of days here. Hard to believe. And then also season 3 of Safety Wars. Something else I want to point, we are 71 days from the end of the COVID emergency, all right, which is going to be May 11th. And you might have heard, I'm hearing commercials right now. Hey, your COVID, the health insurance that they weren't able to cancel during COVID, or this benefit is running out, blah, 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 blah. guess what? Now you have issues now where people are losing benefits and some of the other programs, and they're closing that on November 11th, the federal programs. So it's pretty shocking here with this. Some other miscellaneous, we'll call the potpourri, right? Government shut down the internet more often than ever, according to one report. More countries shut down the internet in 2022 than ever before, according to a new report by digital rights researchers, as the threat of digital authoritarianism races up the agenda of many governments worldwide. Authorities in 35 countries instituted internet shutdowns at least 187 times. Triggers for shutdowns have included protests, conflict situations, elections, and even examinations. I don't know what that means, right? Whatever the situation, they make it substantially more difficult for people to communicate. So let's talk about this for a minute. And there was another news story I heard on the radio in the car on the way to this program. I had my son, I don't know how the game ended. He was playing in a basketball game, and I had to leave with like 4 minutes left in the game to make it here, to do the show. And, where students got stranded, apparently, and they were without cell phones for 2 days. They said they had the best time of their life because they were without electronics. I don't know all the details. I know it's on the radio. I don't know if it's true or not true, not able to vet things. But this is part of the problem with all this electronic stuff. Breakdown in communication. We're at its mercy. One of the advantages of the lockdowns during COVID here was that people got sick of being inside after about 2 weeks. We know all that when we lived through it, right? Everybody. And people actually went outside and talked to their neighbors. Right? One of my neighbors was actually pretty funny. She said, and we're talking, and she's the CEO of a large special education company here. And hello, Diana, if you're listening. And she said to me, oh, well, what do you do? Oh, well, I own a safety consulting firm. And she says, oh, do you know where I can find a certified safety professional? I said, you're looking at him. It was pretty funny. That never happened. Her jaw just dropped. And we had a whole conversation there with masks and respirators and everything else. And then we were able to help her out with her thing there. But again, going out and talking to people. I used to hate, and I recognize this early on. This is way before smartphones. I worked in a corporate environment. People would send emails. That's all we had were emails and maybe, text messages on the flip phone sort of thing. And maybe a BlackBerry. Guys, 5 foot away from me has a simple safety question, sends me an email. I said, dude, I'm right here. What are you doing? Well, I want, okay. This is simply, yes, no, whatever, right? You could have talked to me. We're missing something here. The ability to talk and communicate to people. It's, one of those things that, people either love me or hate me over it. So, for some reason, I don't know how much time I have left on the program. Okay. We're at 5.5 minutes here. What else we got? That's pretty much all I have for Safety Wars. I ran through all my material here. I'll finish up with this one. EPA Justice Department filed a complaint alleging public health endangerment caused by a certain company's carcinogenic air pollution. Today, on behalf of the U.S. EPA and in coordination with the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Louisiana, The Department of Justice filed a complaint under Section 303 of the Clean Air Act against a company to compel the company to significantly reduce hazardous chloropene emissions from its neoprene manufacturing facility somewhere in Louisiana. The complaint asserts that the company's operations present an imminent and substantial endangerment to the public health due to chloropene. So, like I mentioned with vinyl chloride, right, with this East Palestine thing, chlorine is a very pervasive thing. If something has chlorine in it, or chloro, right, we're talking, right, chloroform, DDT, dioxin, polychlorinated biphenyls, aka PCBs, even gaseous chlorine at, let's say, a water treatment plant. These are dangerous materials. That being said, chlorine and chlorinated water is probably, in my opinion, it ranks up there with the discovery of fire, right? And the wheel. Because in 2 or 3 generations of chlorinated water in the United States, life expectancy like double. So, again, chlorine, very dangerous. So the company is here being sued by the EPA, and it's chloropene is the chemical. It's likely to be carcinogenic to humans. Approximately 20% of the population living within 2.5 miles of the facility are children under the 18, and 800 to 1,000 are children under the age of 5. And children are particularly vulnerable to carcinogens like chloropene. So going on and on and on, right? So good things going on. And what else do we have here? All right, that's all I have, and I just wanted to wish everybody a good night from Safety Wars. We'll see you tomorrow, God willing. For Safety Wars, this is Jim Posel.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.